it truly is heartbreaking, because this is a man who has decided to give up everything that he has in order to stand up for his principles. Principles, virtues that we all want to have. You know, courage, courage and belief in freedom, and he's done that, and the government has refused to call for his release.
You say that the UK government is sacrificing your father's human rights. What do you mean by that?
I meant that the UK government, so just to clarify, he is a British citizen, is the only passport that he holds. And the UK government has yet to call for his release. Now, this is with a state, Hong Kong, a special administrative region, that has very blatantly broken a treaty with the United Kingdom, and then started imprisoning people, including my father, who's a pro-democracy activist and publisher of the biggest newspaper, and now they refuse to call for his release.
Why? Why could that possibly be? They spend the whole time saying the problem of China, the threat of China. They wrap themselves in knots about the difficulties of China, but they won't say China have wrongly imprisoned your dad.
To be completely honest, I do not know. It feels like such it truly is heartbreaking, because this is a man who has decided to give up everything that he has in order to stand up for his principles. Principles, virtues that we all want to have. You know, courage, courage and belief in freedom, and he's done that, and the government has refused to call for his release.
Caiolfhionn, what can you possibly do about this? Because this is not a fair system. He's not going to be tried fairly. You're playing with loaded dice. Is there anything legally you can do in this situation?
Well, you're quite right. This is a country which is not rule of law compliant. China and Hong Kong are flagrantly violating international law. The national security law, which Jimmy Lai is now charged under, has been used to silence dissent. So it's been used to imprison booksellers, to imprison psychologists, to imprison people who write children's books, to imprison literally anyone who speaks truth to power. And most prominent amongst all of those political prisoners, prisoners of conscience in Hong Kong, is Jimmy Lai, a man who over decades spoke truth to power. Since Tiananmen Square in 1989, he decided to use his fortune that he'd made from the clothing business to build a media empire. And the whole idea of it right from the outset was to be pro-democracy, anti-corruption, and to stand up to Beijing's leaders. Right from the outset, he was calling Li Peng, the Prime Minister of China, the butcher of Beijing, and the authorities hated him for it. And what they're now doing is trying to weaponize the law to silence him and try to keep him behind bars. In terms of what we can do, this is something we deal with a lot in our work, where we have people who are imprisoned in countries that are not rule of law compliant, be it Egypt, Iran, Saudi Arabia, Russia. And what you must do is you must use international leverage, because we're not going to get a fair process within the court system in Hong Kong. So what we need to do is ensure that China and Hong Kong know that if they continue to imprison this man, Sebastian's father, this Nelson Mandela-like figure in Hong Kong, they will feel pain for it. And that's why it's so incredibly disappointing that the UK is not being stronger in standing up for its citizen.
James Cleverly visited China to further British interests recently. Are you worried, Sebastian? This is the Chinese power, the Chinese economic power is more important than human rights.
Look, I think it's very important to qualify that question. It is, nobody's saying that we shouldn't trade with China or Hong Kong. But we are in a situation now where Hong Kong has very flagrantly broken an agreement with the UK, the Sino-British agreement for the handover of 97, when it was going to be one country, two systems. Now they have broken that. This is a financial center that is very happily calling a agreement with a sovereign state. They called it a historical document. And what have we done from that? What have we done? I mean, the thing is, trade is incredibly important, but you shouldn't give more trade to a country that just breaks contracts left and right, especially if it's a financial center.
Just finally, when do you think you'll see your father again?
I think the work that we are doing and that our team is doing we'll see him. We'll see him out one day. I just, I have to be optimistic, right? Because in the end of the day, no matter how brave he is, no matter what he sacrificed, he is my father, and I want to, I don't know, spend Christmas with him. These little things that I think, I almost used to take for granted. And so I am hopeful. I'm very hopeful.